In the freezing depths of an Alaskan winter, a frantic family and local law enforcement converge on an Anchorage park to retrieve a hidden package. Inside lies a Polaroid photograph of 18-year-old Samantha Koenig holding a recent edition of the Anchorage Daily News. To her desperate loved ones, she appears alive, sparking a massive surge of hope that a ransom payment will bring her home. However, seasoned investigators analyzing the image notice unsettling anomalies in her rigid posture and vacant stare. The terrifying reality is that this image is not proof of life, but a mapper staged deception. This single chilling photograph will expose the existence of one of the most elusive and calculated predators in American history. In early 2012, Anchorage, Alaska stands as a close-knit community enduring the dark, isolating grip of a harsh winter. The physical geography of the city dictates the rhythm of daily life for its residents. Towering snowbanks line the edges of the multi-lane roads, and a heavy gray overcast limits the daylight hours. The biting cold forces people to move between their heated vehicles and indoor destinations. Southern streetlights cast long amber shadows across the icy pavement, creating an atmosphere of perpetual twilight. Despite the severe weather, the citizens of Anchorage maintain their steadfast routines. They rely on local convenience businesses to break up the monotonous commutes. Drive-through coffee stands dot the commercial districts, offering brief moments of warmth and human connection. These small casks sit isolated in expansive parking lots, vulnerable to the elements and the surrounding darkness. The dense forests and sprawling mountain ranges encircle the urban grid, providing a constant reminder of the untamed wilderness pressing against the city limits. Within this rugged environment, residents build strong community ties to ward off the seasonal isolation. Law enforcement officers monitor the streets, accustomed to weather-related incidents rather than organized, high-stakes crimes. The chilling winter provides a flawless cover for anyone wishing to operate in the shadows. 18-year-old Samantha Koenig navigates this frozen landscape with characteristic determination and a vibrant spirit. She represents a bright, independent young woman transitioning into the responsibilities of adulthood. Samantha maintains a profound bond with her father, James Koenig, spending her free time sharing meals and conversations with him. She harbors ambitions of building a stable future and insists on earning her own way in the world. To achieve this independence, she works as a barista at Common Grounds, a popular drive-through espresso stand. Her friends and regular customers appreciate her engaging smile and relentless work ethic. Samantha views the espresso stand not just as a job, but as a stepping stone toward her broader life goals. She manages her finances with care, saving her wages to support her transition into a place of her own. Her daily schedule remains predictable, structured entirely around her shifts, her family visits, and her time with her boyfriend. This consistency makes her a familiar face to the hundreds of drivers traversing the main commercial arteries of Anchorage. Her dedication to her routine provides her family with a profound sense of security regarding her whereabouts. The Common Grounds espresso stand occupies a specific isolated footprint within a bustling commercial zone. The small wooden structure sits in the expansive parking lot of a local fitness club near the intersection of Tudor Road and Old Seward Highway. Tudor Road serves as a major high-traffic thoroughfare moving east to west across the Anchorage Bowl. Despite the heavy and vehicular traffic, the kiosk itself offers little in the way of physical security. The building features sliding service windows on two sides designed to allow baristas to hand hot beverages into the windows of waiting cars. The interior provides barely enough room for a single employee to maneuver between the commercial espresso machine and the cash register. A lack of reinforced locks or protective barriers leaves the sole worker exposed to anyone approaching the service windows on foot. During the daylight hours, the constant flow of gym patrons and commuters creates a natural surveillance system. As the evening approaches and the temperature plummets, foot traffic vanishes. The barista on duty must manage the closing procedures alone in the dim light of the parking lot overhead lamps. This structural vulnerability transforms the small wooden shack into a potential trap. This quiet, ordinary life stands in stark contrast to an unseen predator hunting within the same city limits. A 34-year-old construction worker named Israel Keys operates a local contracting business and lives in a modest house in West Anchorage. He presents the outward image of a dedicated father and a reliable tradesman, paying his taxes and maintaining a pleasant demeanor with his neighbors. He blends into the fabric of the community, driving a white pickup truck and carrying out routine home renovations. Behind this mundane facade lies a meticulous tactician who has spent years perfecting his terrifying methods across the United States. He studies police response times, identifies jurisdictional boundaries, and exploits blind spots in commercial security layouts. He prepares for his crimes by burying hidden supply caches in different states, ensuring he never carries weapons across airport security checkpoints. Anchorage remains his home base, a place he considered off-limits for his predatory activities to avoid local law enforcement scrutiny. The dark winter months and his own escalating impulses prompt a deviation from his established rules. He begins cruising the evening streets of Anchorage, searching for an accessible target isolated from immediate help. There is no reason for Samantha to suspect that her mundane evening shift will intersect with this calculated nightmare. On the freezing evening of February 1st, 2012, Samantha begins the final tasks of her closing shift at the Common Grounds espresso stand. The time edges toward 8 o'clock at night, and the surrounding fitness club parking lot sits empty. The temperature hovers in the single digits, keeping the remaining Anchorage citizens indoors. Inside the small kiosk, Samantha wipes down the countertops, counts the cash register drawer, and prepares the equipment for the morning crew. She expects her boyfriend to arrive soon to drive her home, an established routine they follow at the end of every late shift. A lone surveillance camera mounted inside the stand records her movements, capturing the mundane reality of a young woman finishing a long day of work. The external lighting illuminates the immediate perimeter, but the deep shadows of the expansive lot obscure the spaces beyond the reach of the bulbs. Across Tudor Road, a white pickup truck sits parked in a darkened lot, positioned for a rapid departure. A figure dressed in heavy winter clothing steps out of the truck and begins a methodical walk toward the espresso stand. The physical distance between the hidden truck and the illuminated kiosk measures roughly 100 yards. The predator closes this distance undetected, shielded by the darkness and the lack of ambient pedestrian activity. At 1 minute before 8 o'clock, the security camera captures the figure emerging into the light and approaching the service window. The man wears a dark jacket, a facial covering, and gloves, obscuring his identity from the lens. He places an order forcing Samantha to approach the sliding glass partition. As she slides the window open, the man thrusts a dark handgun through the opening, pointing the weapon at her. The footage shows a brief, tense interaction as the man issues sharp commands demanding compliance. He orders the terrified young barista to turn off the lights, plunging the interior of the shack into darkness. The man forces Samantha to climb out through the narrow service window, pulling her out into the bitter Alaskan night. He binds her hands with zip ties, securing her wrists to eliminate any chance of physical resistance. With the weapon pressed to her side, he leads her on foot across the icy expanse of the parking lot. They traverse the dangerous expanse of Tudor Road, moving away from the safety of the fitness club and toward the waiting white pickup truck. He forces her into the vehicle, starts the engine, and drives away into the sprawling Anchorage grid. The entire sequence unfolds in mere minutes, leaving the Common Grounds stand empty and abandoned. A short time later, Samantha's boyfriend arrives at the intersection of Tudor Road and Old Seward Highway to collect her. He pulls his vehicle up to the Common Grounds kiosk and notices a deviation from the normal routine The exterior lights remain illuminated, but the interior sits in complete darkness, and the service window stands partially ajar. He parks his car, approaches the wooden structure, and calls out her name, receiving no response from the empty interior. Peering through the open window, he spots her purse, her winter coat, and her mobile phone resting on the counter. The cash drawer remains untouched, ruling out a simple robbery for financial gain. Panic sets in as he realizes Samantha would never choose to leave her personal belongings behind or step out into the freezing weather without her coat. He dials her father, James Koenig, setting off a chain reaction of frantic phone calls to friends and family members. When no one can account for her location, James contacts the Anchorage Police Department to report an active emergency. Patrol cruisers activate their sirens and navigate the icy streets, converging on the fitness club parking lot. First responders secure the perimeter of the espresso stand, stringing yellow crime scene tape around the small building. The freezing wind whips through the open service window, preserving a pristine, undisturbed scene devoid of obvious clues. Detectives arrive at the scene and request access to the digital recording from the internal surveillance camera. The investigators huddle around a monitor, watching the grainy black and white playback of the 8 o'clock hour. The footage confirms their worst fears, transforming a missing person inquiry into a confirmed targeted abduction investigation. Law enforcement personnel scour the immediate vicinity for any physical trace evidence left by the perpetrator. They search for footprints in the snow, discarded zip ties, or stray fibers. But the harsh environment yields nothing. The kidnapper executed the extraction with terrifying precision, leaving behind no fingerprints, no DNA profile, and no digital footprint. The Anchorage Police Department issues a citywide alert, disseminating the description of the masked man and the brief glimpse of his clothing. They release missing person flyers bearing Samantha's photograph, plastering her image across storefronts and utility poles throughout the municipality. The profound lack of forensic evidence at the primary scene plunges the Anchorage community into a state of paranoia and terror. Citizens realize an organized predator navigated their main roads, executed a flawless abduction, and vanished without a trace. Detectives face an immense investigative hurdle, forced to build a case with zero physical leads and a ticking clock. The agonizing silence of the ensuing days sets the stage for a desperate cross-country pursuit. The morning of February 2nd, 2012 dawns over a city gripped by profound dread. The Anchorage Police Department and the Federal Bureau of Investigation establish a joint command center to coordinate a massive multi-jurisdictional search operation. Detectives face a staggering void of physical evidence at the primary abduction site. The freezing temperatures and continuous heavy snowfall bury potential clues left on the asphalt of the parking lot. Investigators route hundreds of frantic civilian tips through dedicated phone banks, chasing false sightings across the frozen expanse of the state. Citizens report suspicious vehicles and shadowy figures lurking near commercial centers, but each lead terminates in a frustrating dead end. One initial investigative theory suggests Samantha orchestrated her own disappearance to escape personal financial pressures. Detectives spend critical hours verifying bank transaction records and interviewing close associates to dismantle this specific resource-draining defense hypothesis. The digital forensics team hits a solid wall when they discover the perpetrator removed the battery from Samantha's mobile phone moments after the kidnapping. This tactical move eliminates the possibility of cellular tower triangulation days stretch into weeks of absolute, agonizing silence. The search grids expand from the city streets into the dense Alaskan wilderness, yielding nothing but frozen earth and elongated shadows. The community raises $30,000 in reward money, depositing the funds into a bank account linked to Samantha's debit card. Investigators monitor the financial network, hoping the monetary lure will draw the unseen phantom out of hiding. while the Joint Task Force scours the snowbanks of Tudor Road. The grim reality of the crime unfolds in a different Anchorage neighborhood. Israel Keyes owns a single-story home on a quiet residential street in West Anchorage, located 3 miles from the Common Grounds espresso stand. A detached wooden shed sits in the backyard of this property, shielded from the view of neighboring houses by tall wooden fences. On the night of the abduction, Keyes transports his captive directly to this isolated structure. He subjects the young woman to hours of profound psychological terror and physical subjugation, ensuring complete compliance through threats of further violence. Keyes restrains his victim inside the freezing outbuilding, masking her distress with the loud ambient noise of a forced air portable heater. He extracts her debit card and forces her to reveal her personal identification number. As the dawn of February 2nd approaches, Keyes determines she holds no further utility for his master plan. He restricts her breathing with absolute mechanical detachment, extinguishing her life in the cold isolation of the shed. He conceals her lifeless form in a dark corner of the structure, locking the heavy wooden doors to secure the crime scene. The proximity of this terror to the bustling city streets highlights a chilling systemic vulnerability. A predator operates a private chamber of horrors in plain sight, protected by the assumptions of a trusting community. Neighbors go about their morning routines oblivious to the atrocity committed feet from their own property lines. The timeline of the investigation diverges from the calculated movements of the perpetrator. On the morning of February 2nd, hours after ending Samantha's future, Keyes executes the next phase of his detailed itinerary. He leaves the frozen outbuilding and travels to Ted Stevens Anchorage International Airport. He boards a commercial passenger flight bound for the American South, leaving the intense local manhunt behind. Keyes arrives in New Orleans, Louisiana, to join a prearranged vacation with his family. He boards a luxury cruise ship bound for the turquoise waters of the Gulf of Mexico, accompanied by his young daughter and his oblivious partner. For 2 weeks, the predator basks in the tropical sun, sharing meals at extravagant buffets and participating in family-oriented activities. He adopts the flawless persona of a devoted father on holiday, displaying zero outward signs of the atrocities committed in Alaska. The massive geographical distance provides him with an impenetrable alibi during the most critical window of the police investigation. Back in Anchorage, federal agents continue to interview persons of interest and execute search warrants on abandoned industrial properties. The contrast between the desperate, freezing search grid and the sun-drenched cruise ship creates a sickening dichotomy. Law enforcement searches the icy ravines for a panicked fugitive, unaware their target sips beverages on a floating resort thousands of miles from the active crime scene. The predator utilizes the vastness of the American transit system to render himself entirely invisible to the frantic detectives. On February 17, 2012, Israel Keyes returns to the frozen landscape of Anchorage. He drives to his West Anchorage home and unlocks the heavy padlocks securing the doors of his backyard shed. The sub-zero winter temperatures preserved the horrific scene in an immaculate, frozen state. The subsequent week passes with Keyes attending his local construction jobs and interacting with unsuspecting clients in broad daylight. On the evening of February 24th, the agonizing silence surrounding the police investigation shatters. Samantha's boyfriend receives a sudden, chilling text message on his mobile phone sent from Samantha's own device. The digital message commands the recipient to look for a hidden package at Connors Bog. Connors Bog stands as a sprawling forested public park situated near the Anchorage International Airport, featuring dense tree lines and secluded walking trails. Federal agents and local detectives converge on the coordinates mentioned in the text, securing the frozen perimeter with yellow crime scene tape. Search teams comb the snow-covered brush with heavy-duty flashlights, seeking any disturbance in the natural terrain. A seasoned detective spots a small, weatherproof envelope tucked beneath a wooden signpost at the edge of the dog park. The investigators retrieve the package and transport it to the Federal Crime Laboratory for processing. The contents of this envelope represent a seismic shift in the case, transforming a dormant missing person file into an active hostage negotiation. Inside the sterile environment of the laboratory, forensic technicians extract a single Polaroid photograph and a typed note from the envelope. The photograph depicts Samantha Koenig sitting in a darkened space, holding a folded copy of the Anchorage Daily News. The visible date on the newspaper reads February 13, 2012, a date occurring 12 days after her abduction. The ransom note demands the immediate release of the reward funds into Samantha's bank account to guarantee her safe return. To the desperate family, this image provides profound hope, suggesting she survived the initial kidnapping and remains alive in captivity. Seasoned behavioral analysts examine the photograph under high-intensity digital magnification, noting unsettling anomalies in the composition of the image. The victim exhibits a rigid, unnatural posture, collapsing against the wall in a manner inconsistent with conscious muscle control. Her skin displays a strange, waxy pallor beneath the harsh glare of the camera flash, prompting immediate alarm among the forensic experts. The terrifying truth remains hidden from the family but becomes obvious to the federal profilers. Keyes retrieved the frozen remains of his victim upon his return from the Caribbean cruise. He utilized a space heater to thaw the body, enabling him to manipulate the limbs into a seated position. He applied heavy theatrical makeup to mask the physical trauma and utilized transparent monofilament fishing line to fix the eyelids into an open position. This ghastly staging process forced a horrific semblance of life designed to extract funds from a grieving family. With the ransom demand established, the investigative strategy shifts toward rigorous financial tracking. The community fund totals $30,000, and authorities authorize the transfer of this money into the specified bank account. Federal cyber investigators establish a digital surveillance perimeter around the global banking network. They wait in silent anticipation for the perpetrator to access the funds. Knowing each withdrawal requires the use of an automated teller machine, on February 28th, the digital trap registers a series of sudden hits. A notification alerts the command center to a withdrawal from a machine located in Anchorage. The proximity of the ping sends patrol cruisers racing toward the bank, but the suspect vacates the premises before officers secure the perimeter. The predator realizes law enforcement will flood the local area, prompting a second calculated departure from the state of Alaska. Over the subsequent days, a jagged digital trail begins to panorealize across the map of the United States. New withdrawal notifications ping in a southern trajectory, tracing a chaotic path through the American West. The suspect accesses machines in Washington state, surfacing in the desert communities of the Southwest. Detectives map these geographic coordinates, realizing they are hunting an adversary with vast logistical resources and a willingness to cross multiple state boundaries. This cross-country pursuit tests the limits of the federal task force. The financial breadcrumbs lead the task force to a critical juncture in the second week of March. Investigators subpoena the security camera recordings from the specific automated teller machines used in the unauthorized transactions. The footage from banks in Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas reveals the same shadowy figure withdrawing stacks of cash. The suspect wears a distinctive disguise utilizing a thick ski mask, dark sunglasses, and heavy winter gloves despite the warm southern climate. This wardrobe choice obscures his facial features and prevents any biometric recognition software from identifying him. The investigation encounters a stroke of monumental luck in the rural town of Willcox, Arizona. The camera lens at a local bank captures the masked suspect, but the wide angle also records the reflection of his getaway vehicle in the glass doors. Forensic analysts isolate the reflection, identifying the car as a white Ford Focus sedan. Federal agents cross-reference all rental car agreements in the region, searching for a matching vehicle issued to an Alaska resident. The database returns a signed contract bearing the name Israel Keys, a man matching the physical dimensions of the masked phantom. Detectives dive into his background, noting his extensive travel history and his residence located minutes from the Anchorage abduction site. The phantom terrorizing the nation possesses a name, an itinerary, and a license plate number. The Federal Command Center issues a nationwide alert to all highway patrol units, transforming the silent financial tracking into a high-stakes highway manhunt. The identification of the white Ford Focus transforms the investigation from a reactive search into a proactive hunt along the southern interstate corridors. Federal agents establish a dedicated command post to coordinate tracking data with state highway patrols in Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas. The suspect maintains a rapid pace, directing the vehicle on Interstate 10 and exploiting the vast stretches of uninhabited desert to avoid speed traps. Law enforcement officers monitor the financial ping data, noting the fugitive bypasses major cities in favor of rural convenience stores and isolated automated teller machines. Detectives in the Anchorage Command Center work through the night to compile a comprehensive dossier on Israel Keys, unearthing his military background and his pristine financial records. This background check reveals a subject possessing the tactical training necessary to evade conventional police roadblocks. Frustration mounts within the Joint Task Force as patrol units arrive at identified banking locations minutes after the suspect departs. The immense geographical scale of the American Southwest provides the predator with 1,000 potential escape routes across the Mexican border. Supervisors at the Federal Bureau of Investigation initiate emergency conference calls with Border Patrol agencies, anticipating a potential flight from the country. The digital trail leads the pursuit into the heart of Texas, setting the stage for a final confrontation. The meticulous planning of the predator clashes against the overwhelming logistical might of a unified federal apparatus. The agonizing cross-country pursuit reaches a breaking point on March 13, 2012, in the pine-dense region of Deep East Texas. State Highway 59 cuts a long, straight path through the rural timberlands outside the city limits of Lufkin. A vigilant Texas Highway Patrol trooper monitors the northbound traffic from the gravel shoulder of the asphalt corridor. A white Ford Focus crests the hill, exceeding the posted speed limit by a significant margin. The trooper activates the flashing light bar on his cruiser, pulling the sedan over onto the dusty roadside. 34-year-old Israel Keys rolls down the window, presenting a calm and polite demeanor to the approaching officer. The trooper notes the rental agreement and runs the driver credentials through the national database. The system returns an immediate high-priority alert from the Federal Bureau of Investigation Command Center in Alaska. Backup units flood the rural highway, surrounding the vehicle with drawn service weapons and commanding the suspect to exit the car. Investigators execute a comprehensive search of the Ford Focus interior. Detectives uncover a trove of damning physical evidence stashed inside the cabin. They catalog a thick ski mask, heavy winter gloves, a large sum of banded cash, and a digital mobile phone tucked inside the center console. Officers locate a blue debit card bearing the embossed name of Samantha Koenig. Authorities transport the captive predator back to the frozen landscape of Alaska to face the Joint Federal Task Force. The Anchorage Police Facility features a stark, soundproof interrogation room constructed inside the concrete foundation of the precinct. Fluorescent bulbs cast a harsh clinical glare over a heavy metal table bolted to the linoleum floor. Keys sits on one side of this table, sipping black coffee and exuding an aura of absolute arrogance. He surveys the detectives with deadened eyes, convinced he maintains total control over the narrative and the flow of information. He views the interrogation not as a pursuit of justice, but as a high-stakes tactical game against the government. Seasoned investigators refuse to play into his grandiosity, deploying a methodical, evidence-based strategy to corner the suspect. They slide time-stamped photographs of the automated teller machine withdrawals across the metal surface. They present the rental car logs, the flight manifests, and the physical items recovered from the Texas traffic stop. The sheer volume of verifiable data strips away his perceived superiority piece by piece. The suspect realizes the intricate barriers he constructed to shield his double life have collapsed entirely. Cornered by the inescapable weight of his own financial trail, the facade of the ordinary construction worker shatters. Keyes leans forward over the metal table and begins to dismantle the final shreds of mystery surrounding the case. Over the course of several grueling interviews, the perpetrator extinguishes any remaining hope for Samantha returning home alive. Detectives brace themselves as Keyes dictates the precise chronological timeline of his actions on the night of February 1st. He details his method of forced extraction from the espresso stand and the short drive to his West Anchorage residence. He confirms with casual detachment the young woman never left the confines of his backyard wooden outbuilding. Law enforcement personnel listen in sickened silence as he describes concluding her life the next morning before his scheduled flight. The contrast between his absolute mechanical detachment and the agonizing desperation of the Koenig family creates a profound sense of revulsion. For 2 weeks, the community organized massive search grids and held candlelight vigils in the biting snow. During those exact weeks, the predator consumed tropical drinks and posed for vacation photographs on a luxury cruise ship. He left his victim frozen in the darkness of a backyard shed while he basked in the Caribbean sun. This stark reality exposes the terrifying capability of a human being to compartmentalize profound evil beneath a veneer of normalcy. The investigators absorbed these dark truths, maintaining their composure to ensure the confession remains legally admissible in a court of law. The most horrifying revelation surfaces when detectives demand an explanation for the Anchorage Daily News photograph. Keyes confirms the image intended to spark hope was in fact a complex engineered deception of the highest order. He explains the process of returning to the freezing shed after his 2-week vacation to initiate the ransom plot. He dragged a forced air heater into the outbuilding to warm the environment, allowing him to manipulate the physical posture of his victim. He utilized heavy theatrical makeup to conceal the visible signs of trauma upon her face. In a display of sheer, calculated malice, Keyes threaded transparent monofilament fishing line through her tissue. He pulled the invisible strings taut to force her eyelids open, simulating a conscious awake stare for the camera flash. He folded a current edition of the local newspaper and positioned it within the frame to establish a fabricated timeline. This macabre staging process served a singular purpose: to extract thousands of dollars from a grieving father desperate to save his child. The psychological warfare inflicted upon the Koenig family through this single Polaroid stands as an act of unparalleled cruelty. Detectives realized the anomalies they noted in her rigid posture and waxy skin were the direct results of post-mortem manipulation. This confession strips away the last remnants of the hostage illusion, transforming the case into a definitive recovery mission. Guided by the cold directions of the perpetrator, the federal task force mobilizes a specialized dive team to a location north of Anchorage. Matanuska Lake sits nestled within a steep, forested basin, locked beneath a thick, impenetrable sheet of winter ice. Law enforcement gorgons off the perimeter of the frozen recreational area, blocking the access roads to secure the privacy of the scene. Heavy machinery and motorized ice augers pierce the frozen surface, creating an entry point into the black, frigid depths below. Police divers descend into the freezing water, executing a meticulous grid search of the lake based on the coordinates provided in the confession. After hours of agonizing effort in the sub-zero environment, the team locates and recovers the remains of Samantha Koenig. This tragic discovery shatters the Anchorage community, bringing a devastating definitive end to the 33-day search operation. Medical examiners processed the evidence, corroborating the horrific timeline established by the interrogations and sealing the forensic foundation of the case. James Koenig and his family face an unimaginable reality, forced to mourn a vibrant young woman whose future was stolen by a passing shadow. The community rallies around the grieving family, honoring Samantha as a beacon of light and resilience against an incomprehensible darkness. Her memory anchors the ongoing pursuit of justice, ensuring the narrative remains focused on her life rather than the monster who ended it. The recovery of the primary victim forces the Federal Bureau of Investigation to reevaluate the entire scope of the threat in their custody. Investigators comb through decades of suspect travel records, rental car receipts, and commercial flight manifests. A terrifying pattern emerges from the data, revealing a vast, unconnected network of random disappearances spanning the United States. Keyes utilized a specific rigid protocol to stay invisible to local law enforcement agencies. He bypassed the security measures of modern aviation by refusing to transport weapons through airport terminal checkpoints. Instead, he buried specialized supply containers referred to as kill caches in remote wooded areas years in advance of his planned strikes. These hidden plastic buckets contained firearms, ammunition, cash, and